All right, what's going on? This is Mr. Thompson, and this is checking in on, I believe, day 10 of the strike. This is probably one of the coldest days that we've ever had. It's like sleet, snow, and it's raining, as you can clearly see. Um, and today, we got news that there's been movement in the right direction as far as Lori Lightfoot looking at some uh, looking at some options and presenting some information that is more agreeable to as far as our contract. Of course, with contracts, it rarely is 100% acceptance on for if one side presents a contract and that's rare, very rare, where it's 100% compliance and the other side just is like, okay, we're just going to comply. So right now it's now a compromise, and which that means is that there are going to be some points that CTU really wanted to drive home, but weren't super major, and they're not going to get those points just because they're number one, not important, and two, the CPS is not budgeted, right? And so with that, this struggle for power, this struggle for dominance is changes from the struggle for dominance to the power of dominance to more so the power of compromise, and seeing how CPS and CTU as a faction can meet a resolve and really think about how these days off are going to affect students, how moving forward with these agreements, how this will benefit both sides, or not be detrimental to both sides in the long run. And so today it was just really listening in on points about classroom size, and elementary school teachers not really getting prep time like they desired. And even though they really want that, there are some things that CPS won't budge on, and that's one of those. And me personally, just looking at everything and just really evaluating how these decisions that are made by a faction, like by representatives of a faction, how that can be beneficial or detrimental to the constituents that are part of this faction. I know a lot of times we talked about how CTU is like really the boss with the sauce, and but there are times in which and I understand there are some times in which CTU does act on its own benefit rather than the benefits of the actual people inside of the organization. And so that happens all the time. That really does happen all the time. That happens with any group. Sometimes the leader will make a decision that doesn't necessarily benefit everybody, but more so to make a point. And so right now I'm hoping that they're trying to duck that idea, because when you start having this idea that I've got the power, or they got the power, or who's got the power, I should have more power than them, then you have this power struggle, and it changes the motive of it being for the kids to it being more so of a power struggle. And I'm just hoping and praying that this ends soon, not to the point where we compromise and we don't get whatever we want, but more so of we understand that we can't have everything, and the kids are the most important piece, in which we do harp on that. We understand that, and we need to make sure that our actions support that. Just like anybody's goal, any faction's goal, you got to make sure that your actions are supporting your mission statement, your vision, um, whatever it is, your main, like the mainframe of what it is that your faction was developed for, right? Because a lot of factions end up starting off very strong and then they end up getting weak. CPS has been around for a long time. CTU has been around, one of the biggest organizations, one of the most strongest organizations for under factions that in United States history. And probably the closest thing next to that is the National Rifle Association. And so we got to be careful as to what we're presenting, how we're presenting it, how we're about going things, and just hoping that this comes to a resolve. I'm not really feeling well, but because we're part of the faction, because we're part of this process, there's some sacrifices that must be made, even outside of not getting paid, like coming out here and still supporting, so that we present this image of being together and being one. But all right, Mr. Thompson is out, and we'll check in tomorrow to see exactly what the delegates have said and were voted and all that other stuff.